And we are live. Hi, my name is Tyree Sun.
Elijah Jones.
This is our UFC 257 recap show, covering
Woo-woo.
Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier. Elijah, how you doing, bro? Sir.
Again, we're back on late Sunday. Thank you for calling me, sir. I'm fine. I can't complain. In need of a haircut, as you can see, I'm getting out of control up top there. But all in all, I can't complain. It's a beautiful day. It's probably brick outside. How are you?
Well, I called you Mur, so I don't know how I'm doing.
Oh, you said Mer. See,
Yeah, I said Mur.
that's the worst part because like without my glasses, I don't hear as well. So like
Dude,
you could have said any other thing, and I thought I heard sir.
dude, I stayed up until 3 o'clock this morning to watch the post press conferences last night, which again are important because a lot of things came to light after that press conference. So
Agreed.
I can't wait to talk about it. And to the viewers watching, thank you for watching. One thing I want to say before we start, we have a Discord now. We have a Discord in the description. You could click the link and you will be invited to our Discord. There we could do immediate reactions to UFC cards, LFA cards, PFL cards, and Bellator cards. That's the best place for us to communicate with you guys and you to watch along with us.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So please, please, please join up. Join the Discord. Let us know what you think.
For sure. And also subscribe, hit the like button, tell us what you think. And yeah, we're ready to go. And
Rock and roll.
Good morning, Robert Moore.
All right. We got some fans in attendance here. I appreciate that. Thank you for showing up.
Thank you.
Tyrese, do you want me to kick this bad boy off?
No, so I want to do something different today. Today, a lot went down yesterday. A lot of people talking. A lot of people did immediate reactions after the fight. A lot of people is in discussion, saying this way or that way. I want to do something different today. Today, I'm going to give you three options, Elijah. I'm going to give you three options. The first option is, do you want to cover Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier first? The second option is, do you want to cover Chandler versus Dan Hooker first? Or do you want to cover the UFC in its immediate future first?
Let's go option 2, option 1, then option 3.
So we're going to go
most importance.
Okay, so we're going to go the co-main event, the main event, and then the UFC moving forward.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. All right, so on Friday, we released our UFC prediction show.
Yes, sir.
And we talked about what is going to happen between Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor. And one thing we left out was the co-main event between Michael Chandler versus Dan Hooker. Reasons why. I didn't know exactly what to expect from Michael Chandler.
It's not that we left it out. It's just that we couldn't attest to it as much as we could. I mean, we could have gone in depth. We could have gave an analysis, but realistically, this was to be Michael Chandler's first showing in UFC. He left Bellator on a high note, right? He was able to knock a lightweight fighter out on short notice. I think, and he ended up losing one of the Pitbull brothers, but then ended up leaving on a high note. Comes to UFC was as this fill-in stand-in for Khabib versus Gaethje. Didn't make it because both fighters showed up on weight, healthy, ready to fight. And so he was up in this weird spot. Gets the contract to fight Dan Hooker. Shows up to fight Dan Hooker. Shows out last night. Right.
Exactly.
We didn't know what the projection was for Michael Chandler. Physically, he's in his prime. This is the best he's gonna ever be. Right. We know 34. That. 34. This is his first fight in UFC. We don't know what to expect with it being his first show out. When a lot of fighters transition to UFC, we know it either goes really good or they end up not debuting in the best light. Doesn't determine their UFC career, but we know that we wanted to keep it how you say loose, keep it friendly. We didn't know what would actually come of this matchup, but we did know it would be a good fight overall. But last night we found out that Michael Chandler is not only an amazing 155er. He's also comfortable in the highest, the biggest the biggest promotion in MMA, in the MMA world. And Michael Chandler ended up knocking out and TKOing Dan Hooker, first round.
Yeah, not a lot of people do that to Dan Hooker. Dustin Poirier couldn't do it. And the thing about the fight itself, Paul Felder, right? The thing about this fight was I was impressed by Michael Chandler's poise in it. He didn't seem like this was the biggest stage of his career. It didn't seem like he was just, it was just another fight for him, and he was soaking it all in, and he was able to give that energy up positively. I thought his way of bullying Dan Hooker around the cage
was
beautiful. I thought the finish of the right to the body and then the overhand left over the top to knock out Dan Hooker was beautiful. And I even thought, even when Dan Hooker was down on the ground, instead of trying to take the back or anything like that, he held his head in positioning and was just unloading strikes, which I thought was masterful as well. Like, Michael Chandler is somebody that comes to the UFC in a lightweight division with experience, credibility, and
maturity.
And we know he has an overall game set of he has power in both hands. He can knock you out, and also he is more well known for his wrestling
pedigree. Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's one of those things. It's like, how does this guy conquer this big organization, right? We see this kind of thing happen especially with guys like Eddie Alvarez, right? Eddie Alvarez comes over, fights Donald Cerrone on his debut, doesn't do well, right? But we know that his wrestling is there. We know that he has all the skills and tools capable, right? So when Eddie Alvarez left, in my opinion, he left that Bellator organization after, I believe, he fought Michael Chandler after Michael Chandler got the belt from him and beat Michael Chandler the second time. When Eddie Alvarez left, it gave Chandler room to grow within Bellator, in my opinion. I think because he fought because he fought Alvarez and a few other guys along that way, he was able to grow within that organization and to be the fighter he is now, right? The guy came in, beats Hooker, who's arguably a top 3. Is within the top 3 of the lightweight division at the moment, right? And he did it in a spectacular fashion. Didn't seem like it caused any effort. Seemed like he was well prepared. He knew the game plan. And again, like you said at the beginning of this, no one just walks in and knocks out Dan Hooker. That's not a thing.
No,
that's not a thing, right? We know Dan Hooker is tough. He's been in some wars.
Durable.
Very durable. He has good wrestling. He may not have the same pedigree as Michael Chandler, but he gets the job done in a nitty and gritty way if he has to. Yep. What was I most impressed about Chandler is that Chandler's he's a pressure fighter because he's on the smaller side for 155, right?
Right.
It's the technique in this. The technique is going to be a problem for a lot of those bigger 155ers, in my opinion. In the UFC's lightweight division. But nonetheless, shout out to Michael Chandler. He came in, got it done. After post-fight, he called the Poirier out, he called Conor out, called Khabib out, but he did it in such a spectacular way. It's just like, you can't be mad at this guy. This guy came from another promotion, said that he was the best, comes to test against one of the best, and wins. How can you be mad at the man?
No, I agree. I thought the promo afterwards was if you watch WWE, which again you used to watch WWE, I still watch WWE now. Interviewers watching it, he did a Ric Flair type promo. If you remember, Royal Rumble
flag,
Royal Rumble 1992, when he talks about the Tear My Eye promo, and he talks about how he is here to take on all challengers, and that's what he did. He looked phenomenal last night.
Phenomenal.
I would put it up there with one of the best debuts you could have, especially with the questions coming in. And him delivering on that again as against a guy that Paul Felder who couldn't knock out, Dustin Poirier couldn't knock out.
And just want to interrupt. Just because we're saying these people couldn't finish him doesn't mean these aren't great fighters. It just takes that much more to finish a guy like Dan Hooker.
Right, and it's more impressive. It's more impressive that he did knock him out.
Yeah,
that these other guys couldn't. That's what's more impressive.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: before we move to Michael Chandler, what's his immediate future is next. Dan Hooker apparently he put his gloves down after the fight. Elijah, I'm gonna ask you this straight up: do you think Dan Hooker is done?
No.
Okay.
As an actual fight fan, no. And the reason as to why is because Dan Hooker, something seemed off about him in this fight. He seemed a little more timid while going around the cage. I think, and that's a testament to Michael Chandler, but I don't know. I'm interested to see where his mindset was after this fight, and I want to see some interviews and see what happens with him. But as far as I'm concerned, there's not a lot of people in that division who beat him, in my opinion. There's not a lot of people who beat Dan Hooker. Not only is Dan Hooker striking dynamic, he's big, he's strong, has great technical ability, and can wrestle when need be, right? Doesn't wrestle all the time because he's a stand-up guy. He's a kickboxer at heart. That's what the guys in City Kickboxing train him to be.
Right.
But I don't think he's done. I do think this is a moment to take some time off and reevaluate because now you're within the top 5 of that division.
Right.
Too many losses can kick you out. And realistically, you don't at a guy I believe he's like 32, maybe 33.
I'll look right now while you're talking.
Yeah. He's 32, 33. The fight game isn't going to be forever. We know the lightweights tend to hit their prime around this time, right? So realistically, Dan Hooker shouldn't hang it up, but I agree with taking some time off. There's so many more interesting matchups for him, honestly. In the UFC rankings, he gets potentially fight Tony, Rafael dos Anjos. We can probably get Diego Ferreira. I don't know, Daniel. There's too many matchups that would be interesting, and he'd be a hard time for most people in the top 10. I think this is a night where Chandler had his number. They had phenomenal game planning. Sanford MMA? They prepped very well for this fight, and they knew what to do. But I don't think this is the end of Dan Hooker. It shouldn't be. I can't decide that, but it should not be the end of Dan Hooker. What about you?
By the way, he's 30. He's 30 years old.
He's 30. Oh, he's young. He's young.
He's 30. Young. He's 30, but I want to table this. I don't think he's done either. No. But I want to table this discussion because I think it's this part of the conversation is important when we talk about the overall grand thing of the UFC in the immediate future. I think Dan Hooker putting his gloves down is important because it talks about the UFC's immediate future, which we're going to discuss later on. But for Michael Chandler, what's next for him is interesting because we want to talk about it in the next segment. The winner, Dustin Poirier, which we know, he didn't seem too keen on fighting Michael Chandler next. And I think the reasoning that I took from it was that Michael Chandler hasn't done enough in the UFC in order to deserve a title shot. Let me ask you this. Do you think Michael Chandler deserves a title shot next?
I think it's arguable. I'll go 60-40, right? Because you look at the UFC's obviously in a constant state of flux, right? Everyone, no matter what, the top 5 guys all want to fight for the belt. The issue when it gets to the top 5 guys is that unfortunately, either half of them has beaten each other or half of them have never faced off. With a guy like Chandler who beats the number 6 ranked Dan Hooker,
right?
He beats number 6, he gets moved to number 5.
Right.
How often do we see number 5 getting a title shot over those top people? Right now, when we look at the top people in the top 5, we have Charles Oliveira, Conor McGregor, Tony Ferguson.
Right.
Obviously, this upcoming Monday, we'll see a switch in the top 5. But a very, very, very strong case can be made that he, with his name and the way he knocked out Dan Hooker, that would be a great fight to have Poirier set up. But Poirier's got a point to it. Everything gets paid in full. You got to put the hard work in. This is a great, interesting performance, but one fight doesn't get you a title fight. So okay. I think, for me at least, I think him fighting against Charles Oliveira would determine that number 1 contendership to fight Dustin Poirier for the inaugural lightweight championship. If Khabib vacates or if they, give him another interim, who knows? But I don't think this one fight determines that he may be ready. Don't get me wrong, because of the experience wise. But as of right now, one fight's not going to be the determinant for me. What about you?
No, I think everything you're saying is fair and correct. I think this is why sometimes doing immediate reactions after a pay-per-view, sometimes you need to take a second to take a step back and really think about things.
Tyrese, I for the first time did that. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I for the first time. You're a guy who definitely likes to look at the scene after a fight. For me, I like to go to sleep after a fight. You know me. I don't like staying up too late. Right. I did that for the first time, this morning at 2:00, and then this guy's like, "Oh, Chandler fights for the belt." I'm like, "Wow, that calm down."
Yeah, it's a thing where watching watching stuff after a fight and immediate reacting to it, you kind of get lost in the sauce and kind of just you forget the overall grand scope of things. Like Charles Oliveira being on, I think, an 8-fight win streak. There's different ways to go about it, and Dustin Poirier is correct. Dustin Poirier beat Dan Hooker, so I don't know if Michael Chandler is the first in line to get a title shot next after this performance. And I tend to agree with Dustin Poirier that I would like to see Michael Chandler versus Charles Oliveira next to see who gets the title shot next.
Yeah, for sure.
Have that be for the interim title fight, and then you could do the winner unifies it with Dustin Poirier if that's the case. But yeah, I don't think we need to see Chandler versus Dustin Poirier. But again, Michael Chandler is a big name. We'll see what UFC does. But
UFC is in a constant state of flux. During COVID, we don't know what's happened. Nothing solidified.
Correct.
We just got Ngannou versus Miocic after 6 something plus months. We just got, randomly, we just got Izzy versus Jan. We just got Kamaru versus Burns. We don't know. But no, not Chandler. Chandler's argument is there, but no, not right now.
Right.
Poirier in my eyes is the champion if Khabib's gone.
Right. And for the viewers watching, we appreciate you watching. Thank you. Please subscribe. Please share. Please like. And join the Discord. And now I think what everybody's waiting for, we could finally talk about Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier. It's a perfect segue because Dustin Poirier did defeat Conor McGregor via knockout in the second round.
Yes, he did.
Okay, so me and you both had Conor McGregor winning. Right. Yeah. Why did you pick Conor McGregor winning?
I picked Conor McGregor because at 155, I've always liked how he was, right? I've always liked that he was zippy, he was fast. I did buy into the fact that they said Conor's more, Conor's what you call that, more dedicated, more active. He's training well. The thing is, I follow Conor since his Marcus Brimage fight, where we know he's that, where we know he's that confident, that I guess more focused. We know we get great performances from Conor, and the pre-tell is generally people tend to lean more towards a person who's beaten somebody than they do the person who's lost in the first fight, right? So not only does Conor, I lean Conor because of that, but also what Conor's been able to do in UFC and in terms at 155. And so for me, it was easy to say Conor, but I'm a Poirier fan. I always go, Poirier has all the tools to get any job done. The experience, the punching, the boxing, the kicking, the grappling, the clinching. He has everything that I said it. I'm pretty sure I said this, and I'm going to paraphrase, but I don't see any reason why Poirier can't win.
You did.
I said that. Yes. But I ended up choosing Conor because I was a little bit more confident in Conor because he beat Poirier the first time. And I thought the game plan would be similar, but they would be able to overcompensate because, again, like you attested to, there's just much more footage on Poirier. But the evolution of Poirier was the biggest factor. What about you?
Yeah, I chose Conor. I think almost for the same reasons. I thought that Conor would land the prettier shots and the best shots, and I thought that the accumulation of those shots were going to hurt and stun Dustin Poirier to where Conor McGregor will get the finish. I didn't say a round because I didn't think it was going to be in the first round, but I thought the punches were going to add up, and I thought he was going to knock out Dustin Poirier. Yeah. And for the most part, I thought the first round, we saw a little bit of that. We saw Conor McGregor tagging Dustin Poirier. I thought he had him stumbled and wobbled a little bit in the first round.
He caught him with some good crisp striking, some good timing, good crosses, good jab, uppercuts. He hit him with an elbow and a clinch.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was textbook things that you wanted to see from a Conor early on, right? You attested to this, and I believe when you talked about Khabib fight, Conor likes to start off strong. And this is the out of fight. Conor likes to be in your face. I know you had recently gone over this with your brother. Conor isn't a pressure fighter, but Conor likes to lay traps and let his opponents get this false sense of things. So we knew what we were getting in the first round, and I think that also contributed to why we both picked Conor.
Right. Let me ask you this, Elijah. So let's start with the first question of this segment. Right? Is Conor McGregor washed? Like Robert Morris has said in the comment section, which you could comment as well. Is Conor McGregor finally done?
I don't think Conor's done. I think Conor can be dedicated. Conor has amazing talent and ability. But again, Conor hasn't fought all of last year. Let's look at the facts. Conor hasn't fought all of last year. And before that, prior, he hadn't fought for maybe two plus years?
Correct.
We have this theory in MMA that I told you this every 3 to 5 years, the game changes. The addition of the low calf kick has been something that started within I want to say maybe 2017, 2018. You start to see it here and there, but the evolution and the incorporation of that and as the general basis of many mixed martial arts like game plan has skyrocketed, right? We've seen great people like Sean O'Malley get ended from the calf kick, right? Like he hurt himself, but the calf kick kind of plays into that as well. We saw
Michael Chandler,
Brent Primus fight, right? So we saw the introduction of this low calf kick into his corporation, into MMA, and it took off. And so I'm not saying that's the only thing, but again, Conor's been out the game so long, and it's understandable as to why he lost. But Conor isn't washed. Okay. Conor in no shape sense is washed. I think not fighting over a long period of time can hurt athletes. This is what they're assigned to do. This is their job. If someone's not playing basketball if someone's a great basketball player but doesn't play basketball for 5 years, they'll be good. But the people who trained between those 5 years will be probably better than they are because they're able to work on their skills. Now, with that being said, again, Conor has God-given unnatural talent. We're sure of that.
Right.
But at the end of the day, activity speaks for itself.
Right. So yeah, I agree with you. And the reason why one, I want to agree with you in saying that he's not washed. For people watching the fight and watching Conor McGregor fight for the first time or doesn't watch fighting enough, I thought Conor McGregor looked great in the first round. I thought he looked phenomenal. I thought the first round he was doing everything you would want to see if you're a Conor McGregor fan. I thought when Dustin Poirier took Conor McGregor to the ground in the first round, I thought Conor McGregor did a great job scooting his back to the cage and then getting up off the fence. I thought he did a great job getting up in the clinch. I thought in the clinch he looked phenomenal. I thought he looked strong in the clinch. He was able to position Dustin Poirier a couple of times. Hold on, you're on.
I'm on mute. Sorry about that. I wouldn't say Conor's the stronger man, but Conor at 155 didn't seem like he had any trouble. Like, if you look at it, the control from the clinch, like you mentioned, Tyrese, had to be mostly Poirier, his back to the cage with Conor pushing him against it, right? And you tend to see that with the stronger person, but you would think that Poirier would be the stronger guy filling out at 155, but Conor looked physically strong.
And not only that, I would also look at the wrist control.
Yeah.
If you look at in the clinch, I thought he had great wrist control, having the wrist on Poirier and trying to turn him around and having Poirier's back to his cage, and when it breaks, throw the elbow off, or like he used to do in the Don Cerrone fight, use the wrist control and do the shoulder strike into the nose, which he did land on Dustin Poirier, which I thought was good.
Landed a few.
Yeah, so like to me, washed is like Anderson Silva.
Wash is, in my opinion, wash really is a subjective term, right? Because
yes,
wash is a subjective term. You say wash because someone's like not performing as good as they used to be, but you failed to mention any other aspect that could affect their game.
Romo says he's done over and over. I think he'd do better if he fight 1 or 2 times a year. Conor, that is. I think he's correct. I think Romo is
activity.
Correct.
Yeah, activity.
And the thing about it is, like, so the first round, I thought Conor McGregor was doing everything correct. I thought his boxing looked crisp, like it always is. I think he's the better boxer between Dustin Poirier and Poirier himself. I thought he lands the cleaner shots. I just think right now Dustin Poirier is the better overall fighter. I thought that Conor McGregor, he again. Him getting taken down, which again people talk about that. Conor gets taken down. That's pretty much the kryptonite of him. And no, he scooted back to the cage immediately and got to his feet and started to work from there. I thought Dustin Poirier had a great game plan. I think I don't think Conor McGregor. I think Dustin Poirier had a great game plan, and his game plan was to not let Conor get loose early on and not let him get comfortable early on. And he threw the leg kicks, which we're going to talk about, but him taking them down. I said in the prediction show that I thought that's what I want to see. I want to see him mix it up and not just go boxing against Conor McGregor. I wanted to take him down. I wanted to give him the clinch. Leg kicks, which I talked about. And he did that. He did a great job of suppressing Conor McGregor's striking and comfortability to where. Go ahead.
Sorry, good. No.
So Conor McGregor only had, I believe, 38 strikes in the first round total, and he only landed maybe about 15 or 13 significant strikes, which is low for Conor McGregor output in the first round. So I thought that was brilliant.
I think the biggest thing that you have to take away from a guy like Conor, which you did attest to also, and I also spoke about this, is the mobility. You take away the mobility of Conor in and out, covering that distance, sliding out, cutting angles. Conor's striking will always be there. Right? That's always going to be there regardless. But when you take away his mobility, his striking becomes not severely limited, but it becomes limited. He's not able to do the things that he's able to do. He's not able to be zippy. He's not able to be in and out. Can't cut angles as fast, right? And Poirier recognized that. I think this fight is a tribute to not the growth in their actual skills, right? Because their skills are going to take them so far. They have the striking, that we knew that. I think the evolution in game planning and the mindset of being able to fight and mentally prepare for a fight like Conor, and the game plan, again, like I said, is what really defined this, right? Because we knew that if we were going to keep it standing, eventually Conor's going to get him. But with Poirier mixing in the takedown, to slow the pace down, to kind of let him know this is something you got to worry about for the next 25 minutes. It's not only striking, but takedowns. Then starting early with the leg kicks, then starting combinations that end with leg kicks.
Right.
Also getting in a lot, trying to time the counter early. Every fighter is going to do it, but Poirier tried, and he was trying, and it was beautiful. And he was able. I think he landed a few good counters, which was Conor not wobbled, but Conor was like, oh, okay, cool. Oh, all right, it's a good one. And one of the biggest things I saw from this fight was that after Poirier would land, and Conor knew it was a good shot, or Poirier knew it was a good shot, he would go like this. He would lift his shorts up and go, that's one. Right. And I think the overall confidence grew every time he hit him with something that Conor was like, oh, wait a minute. He'd be like, one, got you. So I don't know.
Let me ask you this. Robert Moore has a question. He says, "What are some fighters to watch out for in the future?" Want to give your 3 or 4?
Ooh, that's tough, right? A guy I think is definitely going to be a key factor off not just this card. I'm going to go people I know from in general. Brendan Allen. Allen in the middleweight division is going to be a unstoppable force. I think he has all the talent. His jiu-jitsu is phenomenal. So let his striking get better and not worry about the takedown. He's going to be a problem for a lot of those people. Who else? Marina Rodriguez from last night has the striking technique, has the technical striking ability that she obviously has worked hard enough for, and she's going to be a problem for a lot of people in her division if they don't focus well on her. I could say another one, Hakeem Dawodu.
Yes.
Hakeem Dawodu is a strong. That man is mean. I love his nickname too. Mean Hakeem. Woo! Right. That boy gonna be special. I promise you that. What about you, Tyrese?
One of the people from last night that I was impressed by, Mahmoud Muradov.
Yeah,
he fought in the middleweight fight against Andrew Sanchez. He's somebody to look out for. I thought he had a great fight, and his frame, his striking, I thought it looks really, really impressive, and I'm ready to see what he does in the middleweight division. Just for a casual fan, Israel Adesanya is somebody that after yesterday, he could be the UFC's next big star that they're looking for to carry pay-per-view numbers. With Conor McGregor losing, UFC looking for that next person that could be the one to carry the banner. It could be the next guy that bring pay-per-view numbers. I think Israel Adesanya is now that guy.
Yes. Yes.
And like I said, the one person I want to say that maybe not getting enough attention, Sean Brady. Sean Brady in the welterweight division, I think he's somebody that could be a problem. So those are my quick 3 that people are looking for. There's a bunch of fighters you can look out for in 2020.
There's a whole bunch of fighters.
Yeah. But those right now are my immediate 3. Yeah. So that's Robert Moore's question. So we both agree that Conor McGregor's not washed, right?
Not washed.
Right. So, and I want to give credit to Dustin Poirier with saying that the game plan, him being the better overall fighter now. I thought his ability to weather the storm early on, that was key. His resilience is key. His ability to mix up his strikes. Yeah. I want to credit Mike Brown and Dustin Poirier and
evolution
and the evolution of them. Like the idea to I'm going to throw low calf kicks was genius. Especially if you notice, and we talked about it in the prediction show. I talked about Eddie. I talked about what I want to see from Dustin Poirier, the leg kicks. And the reason why is because when I watched the Eddie Alvarez fight, one of the things I noticed in the first round was Eddie Alvarez blasting leg kicks, and it seemed to knock Conor McGregor off balance.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to see that incorporated. And man, for somebody that has been through the ups and downs Dustin Poirier has, to finally avenge this loss, Dustin Poirier is now becoming an all-time great. Maybe not the greatest of all time. Maybe not in the top 5 or top 10. But he's definitely becoming one of those fighters that becoming an all-time great that you're going to talk about for 2 years to come.
Just a sidetrack. Remember that moment when Poirier was set to fight? What's it called? Eddie Alvarez for the first time.
Right.
Then the fight ends up in a DQ, right?
Yep.
Because Eddie Alvarez and then did this elbow, right?
Yep.
We talked about Poirier being can he overcome that gap that he sent to fall to?
Yep.
You good? Yeah,
I'm good.
We talked about that. I said he would rise to the occasion. You said you don't know yet, but you wouldn't be. You said I remember we talked about that moment. Like he has to get over that hump of being emotional, things like that. Poirier's done that with a win like over Conor, with a guy like Conor. He's not only proven that he's capable of and shown that growth, but Poirier is now that fighter who, in my opinion, stands out above the rest of the division. There's not too many. You beat Conor, right? You beat a Conor who's not, hasn't been fighting as long, whatever. Sure, you can make the argument that. But at the end of the day, the evolution in Poirier's game, beating Max, beating Conor, beating Gaethje, beating all these top-level guys, current top-level guys. He's not beating top-level guys phasing out. He's beating current top-level contenders. Aside from Khabib, in my opinion, the number one lightweight in UFC right now is Dustin Poirier.
Agreed. I'm. You got to give props to Dustin Poirier and the way
come a long way.
He's come along. I thought the Max Holloway fight was the one where I finally saw him go over the hump, and I was like, okay, he's different now. He has a different aura about him now, and I'm glad to see him getting his due. I'm glad to see him in a better light. Yeah. When he was going through it with Conor McGregor at I think it was like UFC 194 and the Michael Johnson one, it seemed like that was a time where the emotions of Dustin Poirier prevented him from being, a better fighter. And like now, it seems like he's at a better place in his life. He seems happy. He seems content. He seems confident. So like just seeing that, just seeing the evolution from him going from that to now feeling like he's the man in the UFC, like that to me, I'm happy to see that. I'm happy to see him getting his due. But yeah. So let's speak to Conor McGregor now, right? We talk about Conor McGregor, and we talked about how the leg kicks have played a factor. One of the things I found interesting in the press conference, which I watched after the fight, Conor McGregor talked about inactivity. And not having more reps and not having much seasoning in the UFC. Yeah. He talked about even in the Donald Cerrone fight, he wants more time in the UFC and stuff like that. So this is nothing new. But for the first time, like I started listening to what he was saying. And he talked about the low calf kicks, and he talked about how he's never seen or never experienced it, which I thought was very telling to me. Reasons why, because again, that played a big role into this win. Like if you notice, you look at the fight, I thought the punches itself weren't the problem. It was more the low calf kicks. You see after the first round, he wasn't really checking it enough. He was trying to. It seemed like he was trying to figure it out.
He attested that he thought he was checking him, but I guess with the damage that accumulated on your leg, I feel like he probably just couldn't tell. Like he could see it, but I think the assumption that he was until it accumulated. Sorry, but keep on.
No, I'm glad you said that because it was a situation where he thought he was checking the leg kicks. He was trying. He didn't know that he was inexperienced, I guess, on the low calf kicks and how to protect that area, how to defend against that. And so it accumulated over the course of the first and second round to where the knockout really happened after the leg blew out, and you see Conor McGregor stiffen up, and you see him go back against the cage after a punch, and you see Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier unloading. This when we talk about he's not washed. Notice Conor McGregor he has head movement the whole entire time. He's head moving, he's shoulder roll and stuff like that. So it's not like he's out of position, he's out of sorts. The knockout happened. Yeah,
he slipped so many strikes.
Right, the knockout happened where Conor McGregor's trying to back out or escape off the right side.
Off to the right, yep.
Off to the right side.
He caught him with the right hook.
Right, but in that moment, you see Conor McGregor. Yeah, you see in that moment, you see Conor McGregor like hunched over a little bit, and to me, that was I took that either as he was trying to go for a takedown, or his leg seized up in that moment. He got stuck at that point.
Yeah, he got caught.
Maybe it was a combination of both. Where he's trying to go for a takedown, and then the leg seized up in that moment, in that brief second. That's a Poirier, boom, down the middle, right to the nose, knockout. And even in that, I didn't think Conor McGregor, like people were posting that this knockout is bad or like this is like to me this was like it's a great performance by Dustin Poirier, phenomenal performance. But it wasn't like I didn't say this as a bad loss for Conor McGregor. I thought like to me like this was like par for the course.
If I'm being honest with you, this is just a reality check.
No, it's not even
it is a reality check, and I'm gonna tell you why it's a reality check. It's not a Belichick in the sense that Conor's like this cocky guy, whatever. Conor came in mature, they both came in mature, but it came in to realize that Conor's gonna now have to start digging deep and start to evolve his game. His game was already good, but the game has changed since he's been in there. Poirier is the same fighter, yet a very different fighter strategically in this fight. And so realistically, now he's hungry, he knows what he's fighting. He just fought the best fighter in his division outside of Khabib.
Let me flip that. I don't think he needs to dig deep because that's saying that he gave up last night. I think when he talks about activity, I think he needs to be around the game more.
Oh, for sure.
And that's what I took away from his post conference is that he needs to be around the game more. Like him. Activity plays it too. Well, no, not just activity, but just like. How do you not know about the low calf kick unless you're watching UFC in the last 2 or 3 years? Which again, that's what I'm saying. Like I don't think he's watching. I don't think he's watching fighting. I don't think he's watching people fight. I don't think he's watching as much. I think he's somebody that's disconnected from the sport.
Yeah,
and that he thinks that if he shows up as him. He is going to be one of the best fighters in the world, and I think he has not been checking in on what's been going on in the sport. And the low calf kick has been something that's been happening in the sport and has been a problem since maybe for 2-3 years now.
I bring up the dig deep part because now is going to be a moment where either you want to continue, and I think he's obviously going to. Okay. Either you want to continue, you're going to have to dig deep and evolve.
You mean fighting more?
Yeah, if you're gonna want to fight more and be as active, there's things about your game that his game is already set. There's not much that's gonna be tweaked. But in the post fight, he also talked about coming in with a little bit of a different stance, things like that. Conor, in his own right, seems like he's matured in the fact that he's not, in his similar antics that he was before, which is fine. We know that hypes a fight. We know sometimes that hurts a fight. Doesn't matter. Conor seems a little disconnected, which is good in the fact that he was like, well, this is a loss. I'm taking it as it is. I'm okay. I don't seem too bothered by it. For me, when I heard that, I was like, that's a little interesting because when Conor lost to Nate, he was like, I want that fight back. I want this fight. I know I can win. Right. In this, he was like, I took the loss. It is what it is. Obviously, that seems to come from a mature standpoint. But again, I agree with you in the disconnected part on that aspect as well, because he seemed to be as if he's like, again, this is where the reality check comes in. Like, the game is not the same as when you left. Mm-hmm. When you beat Alvarez, went to boxing, then came back, it's not the same. You did well against Khabib, and that's fine, but you were out for almost 3+ years.
Right.
You showing up as Conor McGregor is enough to get you obviously through the door up to top 5. But it's not going to be able, it's just not enough. The name has to be much more now.
So what do you mean by the name? I want you to be specific on these things because
the name being, having the title of Conor McGregor is coming back. It's gonna gather the buzz. We know what you bring to the table, but
speak to the ability. Stay on the.
We already talked about the ability. We already talked about Conor's ability. We talked about his creativity when it comes to striking. We talked about his boxing, how he incorporates a lot of kicks from the side karate-like position. We talked about that already.
No. So what I'm saying is, when you're saying he needs to dig deep and he needs to he can't go buy off his name. I want you to speak. Are you saying that because of his name, it's the fact that he is beating he can beat the top 5?
No, because of his name, he's getting into these top 5 spots, which is obviously, we know it's because of his name and it's because of his skill. But now is the moment, since he lost to Poirier. Listen to what I'm saying. Don't take it in any other context. Now that he lost to Poirier, like you said, he's a little bit disconnected from the sport. He has 2 paths that he can follow right now. Either learn, evolve, dig deep, come back stronger, or leave the game.
Okay.
There has to be an evolution in his game.
I wanted you to be specific because when you're saying that he needs to dig deep and he needs to when he needs to evolve and stuff like that, when you're talking to general people, that makes it sound like he quit or that he's going by off of his name. Like I know you. And I want you to be able to speak to what his ability is and what his ability stands with the rest of people in top 5.
his ability's there. It's indisputable. Conor is done what he brought in the champ, right? Before Conor, I'm sure there's been champs before in other organizations, right? World Series fighting had one with David Branch. A lot of people don't know that he was the middleweight and light heavyweight at the same time.
Shout out to David Branch.
Yeah, shout out to David Branch. Big fan. Conor brought in the champ ushered era into UFC. Conor went and fought arguably the greatest welterweight boxer, probably one of the top boxers of all time, right? And Floyd Mayweather. Has an epic 2-fight scenario with Nate Diaz. Does great against Khabib, but ultimately loses. We know Conor off of how good he was. We know Conor's going to still be that good. But when I say dig deep, I say now's the time to evolve slightly more, push, and become a fighter, an MMA fighter of the now. That's the adjustment that he's going to have to make.
Perfect. I agree with you.
And I honestly think Conor can do it. I think he can do it.
I agree with you. Yeah, it's yes, his name is Conor McGregor, and he's going to always bring in people and bring in fans, but he's also got there because of his ability. And I don't want to be one of those people that are like, well, Conor McGregor's only there because of his name. No, Conor McGregor is there because of his ability. And when people say, go call back, when some people say he's washed and that he needs to retire.
Not true.
Like,
not true.
Like you have to watch the fight itself, and me and you are known to the game. We see things that people can't see. So when people say Conor's washed, we say, hey, let's look at this, and this. He needs to evolve his game to now, and has to be more involved in the sport. Like him saying that he doesn't know low calf kicks or how to check it. That to me is mind-boggling for two reasons. One, that tells me that Conor McGregor is not paying attention to the sport as much. And then two, what is SBG doing? Like if you're John Kavanagh, which we talked about John Kavanagh being a mastermind,
brilliant coach. He's a brilliant coach.
I think another problem, like you said, with Conor McGregor and his name and stuff like that. I think we sometimes equate John Kavanagh being this mastermind and being the person that is cerebral and everything like that, which I talked about in the prediction show. But that's not cerebral thinking. If you didn't think about if you're not introducing low calf kicks, if that's not in your discussion, we're talking about Dustin Poirier and his leg kicks. How is that not in the game plan?
I don't think it was in the game plan. I don't think they
takedowns
consideration. I think the takedown was in the consideration because Poirier's been trying to incorporate, clinch work and
it didn't look like it.
Conor did. I think when you got a guy like Conor, right, they focus on his natural born ability, and I think they game plan well enough for to attribute for Conor. I think sometimes in doing that, again, it's like we know how good Conor's talent is,
right?
But it just doesn't seem like. I think for most people, it's hard to handle Conor. And I think that's why Conor's able to beat a lot of people, right? Because he's a little bit different than the average MMA fighter. Stance, creativity, timing, the tools he has. But for someone experienced, those tools and things like that become a lot more easier to work with than people who aren't experienced, if that makes sense, right? So with a guy like Poirier, I think this is just one of those things where it's like Poirier, he saw the holes, he knew what he could do, and I just don't think they gave as much attention to that area as much as they should have during the preparation.
And to me, that's a big glaring. That's a big glaring red flag. Because when I look at SBG and we follow MMA, we've seen this evolution over the time. We saw SBG and what they were when you had Cathal Pedrin, Artem Lobov, Paddy Holohan, even today James Gallagher. But like those people coming out of SBG are coming less and less. If you notice that in the next couple of years, like SBG Ireland, like the next like breed of crop of talent that we know of right now, and people we don't know, we're sorry, but James Gallagher is one, Conor McGregor is the other. That's it right now in SBG Ireland.
Yeah.
So and Owen Roddy, who was Conor McGregor's boxing striking coach, he's gone now, which I found is interesting. So like for SBG, for me, it's just like, wow, like you guys weren't prep for this, like you guys, and it's also common, but like you being the coaches, you being around the game long enough, y'all didn't prep Conor McGregor for low calf kicks. Y'all didn't keep him up to speed with what's going on, like, and seeing what's going on at SPG Ireland, only having James Gallagher right now, maybe Johnny Walker, but I think Johnny Walker's a TriStar. So like, like I raised this question to you now. Do you think Conor McGregor should leave SBG and go to a camp that's more concurrent with more prominent fighters, like an ATT or an AKA?
I don't think he should leave. I don't think he should leave SBG. What I do think should happen for Conor is Conor should have an invitation where he's inviting people to come work out with him from other camps or go to incorporate other groups or camps, fight camps within his fight camp, right? Let's get him back out into the MMA. Let's immerse him not only into the ever-changing techniques and things, but there's like some big camps that he can go to and do, just maybe there's work with. He doesn't necessarily have to have his fight camp there with those people, but I think now is an important time for Conor. In order for him to grow at this time in MMA, he should be now branching out to different groups, and that's fine. I don't think he should leave SBG. I don't think,
or maybe just split his time. Like, not even
all
on SBG. Maybe go to AKA or ATT or
he's definitely not gonna be able to go to AKA. We know that for a fact.
Who knows? You never know. Or go to Black Zillions, or go to
Stanford. There's a lot that can happen.
That team and that Darren Till team. I forgot his name. Something with that. Okay, but in Liverpool, like mix up the trend so you're with fresh faces, with your new fresh coaches, and you're in different environments.
If this is the movie for Conor's life, this is the moment where he decides to go on that martial artist journey to gain the knowledge. Here, he talks to the monk. He talks to the person training in the trees.
Yes.
You ever seen Samurai Jack? Where Samurai Jack they go his origin story, and he trained with archers. He trained with he trained with the Scots. Like, he trained with all these people. Like, now is the time to go do that. If I'm Conor, but pushing this conversation forward, what's next for? Let's start with this. What's next for Conor? What do you see for Conor's future right now?
All right, so we're both in agreement that he's not done and he's not washed.
Come on, man. That's not even. You think I'm?
Okay.
I'm not.
Okay. So my immediate thought was not Nate Diaz, which everybody's pushing. Everybody's saying Nate Diaz. I don't want to see Nate Diaz fight unless Nate Diaz wins.
I think
Nate Diaz has to win one for me to care about paying to see that fight. But we're on a pay-per-view to watch Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor.
I'll say this: that fight's always going to be there. But the question is, like you said, do you want to watch it? That fight's always there.
No, I don't feel like paying $75 to see Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor 3 when both fighters are coming off of a loss. Nate Diaz is more egregious because Nate Diaz has lost. He lost to coming off loss. He beat Anthony Pettis, but he lost to Jorge Masvidal. Yeah, I don't want to see Nate Diaz fight unless he has a win, because I think Nate Diaz has gone his career having losses and having big fights, and I'm not paying $75 to see Nate Diaz fight Conor McGregor off a loss. Let Nate Diaz fight somebody like a Dan Hooker if Dan Hooker would like to return, and have that fight, and then you could set up Nate Diaz either potentially fighting somebody in the top 5 or fighting Conor McGregor again. Yeah, for me, I want to see Conor McGregor versus Tony Ferguson. I think that's a fight that makes sense. One, it tests Conor McGregor's overall skill set now in 2021. It tests what Conor McGregor can do against somebody that can grapple, that can strike, that can also look at submissions off his back and on top. I thought Tony Ferguson, his question of his durability is coming to question, to where how many shots and how many wars has Tony Ferguson has been in that's taking his toll on him. Yeah. So I think from a standpoint of finding out where Tony Ferguson is still at as one of the best lightweights in the world, but looking on the downside, and Conor McGregor, who it looks like he has to find himself in activity. I think that fight makes the most sense to have Tony Ferguson versus Conor McGregor as the next fight, and have Dan Hooker versus Nate Diaz in the next fight.
I 100% agree with. I don't think the Diaz brother comes back for Hooker. I just don't see that happening, unfortunately. It'd be a great fight, though. It'd be a hell of a matchup, in my opinion. We talked about this last night. I do think the best fight for Tony right now is Conor, right?
Yes.
Tony beat, at the time, Conor had stepped away from the sport but was still holding the belt. Tony beat Kevin Lee for the interim. That fight was supposed to come fruition, but that fight never happened. This is a great way to see who's still at the top and who isn't. When you look at a guy like Dan Hooker, there's some great matchups left for him in the division. So I'm not too worried. I don't think he needs to fight Nate Diaz at this point. But Conor for sure has a great matchup in Tony Ferguson. I think that fight should really be booked as soon as possible.
Agreed. And then for the Dustin Poirier, what do you see for Dustin Poirier next? Because Dustin Poirier in a press conference, again, this is why it's always good to watch press conferences, is he doesn't want to fight Michael Chandler.
Disinterested.
And his reasoning is valid. And also, to me, what you pointed out to me, texted me when after the fight, he seemed like he's not like the taste for it, the want is not all there. Like he's not living for this anymore, which is good. I'm glad he's not. I'm glad he has the hot sauce business. I'm glad he has charity work. I'm glad he has other things going on. That to me is a better thing for the fighters to not have to be focused on I need to fight to live. I have other things going on.
I think it's a beautiful thing to know that these when you get to a certain point where fighting doesn't have to be everything you do. Poirier now has a charity, and he does a lot of charitable work. That's what the reasons for this fight is that him and Conor, Conor put up money for his charity, and I'm sure Poirier always at the end of all his fights he sells his fight kit. I think it's a beautiful thing when fighters can do that. Of course, they've made other streams of revenue for themselves. Poirier at the end of the fight said, he said to Daniel Cormier, "Oh, I don't like this anymore."
Yeah.
And I think he's probably getting to a point where he knows he's best. But this is the end of the journey. You know what I mean? Like he's finally making it towards the end. I don't think he obviously can fight still, right? And he's the best. He knows he's the best. I think now he's been doing it for so long that there's some type of disinterest in it, unless it's for, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Unless it's really for the belt, and he's at the belt status, but with no belt, you know?
Yeah.
So it's a weird position for him to be in, to keep winning this good, but not be the champion, but become interim, Khabib's out, and still no belt.
Yeah, and one thing I looked at the Forbes did an article that Conor McGregor made, I think, $25 million for this fight, and then Dustin Poirier made $1 million.
Yeah,
which again, that to UFC fighters, that's great because when do you ever hear a lot of fighters, especially in UFC, getting $1 million off a fight? Which is crazy to me they're not like that. That is not the that's not the bottom of the bar. Like that is maybe the bar for a lot of these fighters.
Yeah.
But for Dustin Poirier, to me, he called out Conor McGregor for the trilogy. I mean, I think I'd be interested in that just because I would love to see what Conor McGregor can do in the immediate after this fight.
Yeah.
What does he take away from it? Again, I thought Conor McGregor looked good in the first round.
He looked good. He looked good.
And then, but the accumulation of the leg kicks, again, Mike Brown's a genius. We got to praise this man more enough than we do. I would love to see Nate Diaz versus Dustin Poirier. They could put that together.
That's a good fight. I'd rather that than Dan Hooker. I don't think the Dan Hooker fight really makes much sense. I think Dan Hooker's at a moment where now he has to get a legitimate win over really current. Dan Hooker's the new wave guy, right? He's fought a lot of the newer guys and he's put them out. And so he stopped a lot of the newer guys. You don't want to give him an old guy at this moment. It would have been better to give him an older guy further back than now, because that would have skyrocketed then. At this point, Dan Hooker just needs to take some time off, get back in the game. But for Poirier, I 100% think that this should have been a title fight, in my opinion. But that's a different conversation for another day. Again, Poirier sits out, lets a number one contender fight, then that'll be his opponent for the lightweight belt. That's it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah, to me though, I don't see Charles Oliveira getting the next title shot before Michael Chandler, and I don't see Dustin Poirier fighting Michael Chandler unless some type of incentive is there. To me, I think the Nate Diaz fight makes the most sense because Nate Diaz wants to return. Nate Diaz versus Dustin Poirier, that is pay-per-view worthy.
Very much so, my good man.
Nate Diaz is looking for that. Nate Diaz is looking for that next big fight. I think Conor McGregor, the Conor McGregor fight with Nate Diaz, again, people saying it's there. It's not there. It's not there. It's not there when both fighters are coming off losses. Now, Nate Diaz wins one and maybe beats Dustin Poirier. Yeah. Then that fight is there, and then that fight could be the number one pay-per-view buy in UFC history. But right now, that fight is not going to be that. So have Nate Diaz fight Dustin Poirier, have that fight that was supposed to happen 2 years ago finally happen.
Yeah.
And then you can see what Conor McGregor is going to do after that. But I think Dustin Poirier versus Nate Diaz at 155 makes a whole hell of a lot of sense now. And that's the best way to get Dustin Poirier to fight again, because I think Dustin Poirier is content on not fighting unless he has to.
Yep.
Which is good for him. So that's the Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier talk. We spent maybe about 20 minutes talking about that, which again is a lot to break down off of it.
There's a lot in that. It's not even just the fight, but the repercussions of the fight.
Right. And now this is the final segment when we talk about the UFC in its immediate future. I brought this to your attention before that with March we have a lot of title fights. We got 5 title fights in March, 2 pay-per-views, three title fights in UFC 259, and then two title fights in UFC 260, right?
Yep.
Okay. So one of the things I took notice and thought about, and Mookie Alexander brought it to my attention on Twitter. He works for Bloody Elbow. Good guy. I've talked to him. He's great. He says Dana is down bad, talking about how the Biden administration could tighten the restrictions for international flights and that may impact UFC schedule and matchmaking. Mm-hmm. That to me is a very, very big deal, because in 2020 when the pandemic was happening, who did Dana White go to when things got bad or he needed permission to do things? And like for instance, Florida happening for their first fight back. Who is that, Elijah?
Donald Trump.
Right. So with Donald Trump now out of office, with the pandemic still happening, with these, we're hearing that there's a more serious strain or a more deadly strain that's happening in the UK.
In March, yeah.
That's happening in the UK and that potentially hit us in March. With now restrictions, with the mask being a mandatory thing for travel for all these other places for you to go to, I can see international fights being a little bit more dampened by this administration.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that. And it's not a bad thing. It's just realistically, policies may change, things may happen, and in the midst of that happening and in those actual changes occurring, we could see a decline in the way UFC handles a lot of their business.
Right, and I'm gonna go back to Dan Hooker. I say this for this point, but even just the fights last night, like me and you noticed it while watching the fights. You notice the fans there, right? You notice how like that looked like a packed house for that show in Abu Dhabi. Yeah. I'm going to assume some of those people were American fans. Some of them were international, some were American fans, right?
Definitely possible.
I'm going to also notice that UFC didn't pan the camera to the fans a lot of times in that during the show. You notice that there may be only maybe 1 or 2 close shots on the fans during that whole entire show. And the shots I seen, fans were not wearing masks at all, and they were all huddled together. Maybe some chairs in between, but they were hunched without masks. So that maybe question their protocol a little bit. That me and you talked about and we praised in the prediction show. I would love to see what the UFC's plan is moving forward, because you have maybe 3 or 4 international fighters on that March card.
Yeah, you do. You have a lot. That are title fights. That's a lot of people.
That are title fights. Israel Adesanya is from New Zealand. Volkanovski from New Zealand. I don't know if Megan Anderson is in America right now.
No, we don't know.
Peter Yan.
Definitely not.
Francis
actually, Peter Yan might be, because I think he was training. I think I saw him in the video with Dustin Poirier for the lead up for this fight, training with ATT.
Oh, good. Hopefully he stays in America. But just even in that, like even in America, traveling from place to place now, that may be an issue. Again, we're going to March. Where March last year, we faced our most difficult times.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see what happens moving forward. So I don't know what the immediate future of the UFC is. The UFC has all these plans and schedules for 2021 with March and I think February is going to be okay, but March in particular, I don't know how smoothly that goes moving forward, especially without the Trump administration to help push the UFC along in certain areas. Elijah,
it becomes a lot harder. That's what I'm getting the sense of that. To me, it's going to become a lot harder. There's probably going to be a lot more changes, and I don't know if that's going to. I really don't know if that's going to help the UFC overall, right? Because they've had this kind of autonomy under.
So
Flathead, hope you're doing well. Flathead says Hooker, Conor. I know.
Join Discord, Flathead. Join Discord.
It was hard to watch, but it was great fights nonetheless. But yeah,
Right.
we don't know what really is going to happen, but it may not be great for those international fighters and things like that.
And how it affects Fight Island too, because UFC does you have to come to Vegas first, get tested there, and then go to Fight Island.
Yeah.
If they're gonna do restrictions on people from the UK, we talk about Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards had a horrible time trying to get to the United States last year. How does that happen now? How does fights in the UFC Apex happen now? Like a lot of things, I'm interested to see how the UFC moves forward with. Again, this new administration, a lot of questions on how the UFC's protocol is going to be moving forward.
Yeah.
And then the Fight Island situation, like that seems like it's taking a toll on people now. You noticed in the press conference, Dustin Poirier talked about how he hated Fight Island.
Yeah. He was not a fan of it. It wasn't a fan of it.
You can see that. You can see kind of like you can understand now when he says I'm losing the feel for it or the taste for it when he has to be in Fight Island. He's stuck in quarantine for 2 weeks.
Doesn't have his family.
Doesn't have his family, and he's stuck there in Abu Dhabi. And then you have Dan Hooker, which we talk about now. Dan Hooker has to be away from his family for a month.
Yeah.
Like I could see how like him putting his gloves down in the middle of the octagon and him having to deal with the anguish of traveling, having to be away from his family for months and months.
It's
like,
frustrating.
You know what I'm saying? Like the UFC, I don't know how they're going to keep this all together with the fighters kind of losing favor of this whole Fight Island deal. And now this new administration is going to make it maybe a little bit tougher for them to be able to maybe trudge on along than we did before.
Yeah, remember also New Zealand is one of the places that are reporting 0 cases.
Right.
So they're really not trying to fuck that up.
Right. So again, like I could see fighters, the thought of Fight Island when it first was conceived was, we're going to Fight Island. It's going to be we're fighting and stuff like that in terms of Abu Dhabi. But like Fight Island, we're pushing on with everything like that. But I think the mental fatigue on fighters coming to Fight Island is starting to take its place, like in Dan Hooker, like in Dustin Poirier.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the UFC can sustain what they're doing.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard, in my opinion, for them to really do that. It's gonna be hard. I don't know.
So if you're looking forward to March and these Fight Island, or maybe not Fight Island, but we gotta see where they're gonna have it at in the first place. But these international fighters happening, coming over and fighting, keep your hopes up, man. Don't get too excited. We don't know exactly what to expect moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. Very important point for MMA fans in the MMA world.
Yeah, so something to look out for. Elijah, was there anything else on this card that you would like to touch on? I know we talked about Marina Rodriguez. She had a great performance over Mana Ribas. That to me almost confirmed the Carla Esparza is fighting next in line for a title shot if Rose Namajunas to fight, which I think they're pushing towards.
I would say one of the bigger things is Brad Tavares looked really well.
Oh yeah.
He had a good showing out, and I think with if they pick the right next matchups for him, he could have some kind of career revitalization. Arman Sarukian.
Yes.
That MFA? Yes. That MFA is going to be a problem. That is out of all this whole fight card, that's who I actually think is going to be an issue 10 years down the I'm sorry, not 10 years. At least 5 years, maybe 2 years down the line. He's going to be really big. I think he's a problem for a lot of people at 155. The wrestling, the striking. I think he needs to tighten up in terms of defense, but the wrestling ability, just the forethought of how positions play and being at the place before they happen, for me, was on display last night. I was impressed.
Yeah, and again, the person I'm looking for, you're gonna hear people in the background. People are making breakfast, which again, hopefully I can eat that soon. But first for me in the middleweight division, I thought was Mahmoud Muradov defeating Interesting. I think that's somebody. You talk about somebody in the next 10 years. That's somebody now I can see could be a problem. I like his style. I like his boxing. I like his I like his footwork too at middleweight. So I'm interested to see exactly what he does from there. Yeah. But yeah, that was my biggest takeaway. Again, Marina Rodriguez being Mana Ribas, it's going to go flying under the radar. But that's a big deal in the sense that if Ribas would have won, I could have sworn she was going to be skyrocketed to maybe fighting a Carla Esparza next, who was supposed to be fighting Weili Zhang, possibly. So with her losing now, they're trying to get Rose Namajunas versus Weili. I think it's Zhang Weili or Weili Zhang.
Weili Zhang.
Weili Zhang next. In Wuhan and not Wuhan, but
Wuhan. They're looking for it.
They're trying to do it in Asia.
Yeah.
So if they can't get Rose Namajunas for whatever reason, Carla Esparza comes next in line. And again, Carla Esparza is somebody we talked about before, somebody that has fought her way, the first ever UFC strawweight champion.
Yeah.
And now she potentially gets a fight off this loss by Ribas.
Yeah. It's looking good. It's looking good. If I'm being honest with you, I'm excited. I'm very excited.
So let's see what happens next. But Elijah, what's your grade for this card?
Poirier shine, so I'm going to give it an A only because of Poirier. Only because of Poirier. That is it. That's the only thing.
All right, fair enough. For me, I give it an A+. I thought every fight on the main card delivered. Even the Jessica and JoJo Calderwood fight, I thought that was a great fight. I thought every other fight on the card, on the main card, was a knockout.
Yeah. It was good fights. Great
Marina Rodriguez knocked out Ribas, Makhmudov, Andrew Sanchez, Chandler defeated Dan Hooker the way he did. And that's Poirier's one. I thought every fight delivered on this card.
Agreed.
So for that reason alone, I will give it an A+, and it sets up things for the rest of 2021.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, but that was our UFC 257 recap show. I'm glad that we finally got to watch. We got to see Conor McGregor and see what he does moving forward. He is not washed at all, but we're gonna see if he can evolve his game moving forward to this new age, a new era of MMA.
Yes, sir.
And Michael Chandler, somebody to look out for in 2021 as well.
Yep.
For people watching, thank you. We appreciate you, Robert Moore, Flat Politics. We appreciate you guys. Again, so subscribe, share. Join the Discord. That's where a lot of our conversations and a lot of our post talk and a lot of our talk outside of this show will happen.
Yes,
so please join that as well. The links in the description. Signing off. My name is Tyree Simon.
Elijah Jones.
This has been a UFC 257 recap show.